What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. I'm super pumped for this one. I've got not one, but two Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts with me today. Newly promoted Chad the Beast Hardy, who is now a full-time coach at Derby City Mixed Martial Arts. Also, I've got a regular on the podcast, Chewy Albin, who is head coach at Derby City. And we just kind of delve into it, man. Everything from what Jiu-Jitsu has meant to us to how training has changed us and what this gym is and how it's developed and their philosophies on training and getting promoted and just everything that Jiu-Jitsu kind of how it has affected our lives. It's been awesome. It was a great podcast, super fun to do. We had so much amazing conversation. I hope you guys enjoy it, and thank you for supporting the podcast. Appreciate it. Are you drunk?
Huh?
Are you drunk already?
Fuck yeah, dude.
Are you already drunk? Seriously?
You know how dehydrated I am?
There's more beer up there, isn't there?
Is there?
Yeah, there's like some kind of Yingling up there.
No. That was for Chris.
Chris
Dukes. The guy.
Fucking hell, Chris Dukes, man.
I can't believe he threw out his knee like that.
Yeah, I was like, I did not want to crank on his fucking knee, dude. He's like, dude, you see your knee? I was like, I don't want to crank on it, man. I don't want to destroy your knee.
That's the main reason when people are hurt, I tell them that I don't want to roll with them. Because, I can go light, but I don't want to feel bad for hurting them. I think that they should just take time off.
Yeah.
Rather than pushing through it.
Do you do it? You take time off?
No, but I've learned... Well, actually, recently I have, because when I hurt my knee, I was like, I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, you
I've grown smarter as a jiu-jitsu practitioner, because I want to do this stuff full-time now. Before, it was kind of, I did it for fun, and now it's more of my job to do it, so. What
do you think as far as, why do you want to do it full-time? What made you switch? So I know we're going to talk about this. What made you switch to, because you were working, crazy-ass hours, you weren't training a ton. What made you, thanks Chewy the plumber.
Got it.
What made you switch, what made you kind of think, and this was before you got a black belt, what made you switch to think, I want to do this full time? Because that's what we were all thinking, honestly. I think me and Chewy had said that, and we were we would all kind of, when you weren't around, we would, think, fucking Chad's got, he's young, he's, not even in his prime yet, he's high level already, why isn't that, just... Because you always tell people, to go after, their dreams and shit. You don't want to, I don't know, you don't want to get, 9 to 5 and do that forever, or get stuck in a shitty job and you're, 35, and you're shit, I wish I would have done something, athletically or whatever, when you're, what made you switch?
I have about 3 reasons that made me switch. Some of the top things... Ever since I was a kid, I was in the gym consistently, and the gym was like my family. And when I started working, because I thought that I needed more money than I did, it kind of put me away from my family, and I missed everybody. I missed being here. I was missing events consecutively, and I wasn't going to go anywhere. The second reason is I was used to going to tournaments and just running through people.
Yeah.
And with the working schedule, I felt like I couldn't put my best into it. And then the third reason, I really couldn't put myself in an instructor's standpoint if I wasn't able to put 100% into it, because I couldn't put 100% into my students. So I feel like they weren't getting my best effort. So I would come in every day and I'd be tired because I'd work at least 14 hours on the clock, and then it would take me an hour to drive home. So I'd sleep for as long as I could and have to be at the gym at 5:30 and come back. And it just got old, and I had to pick one or the other. And, for a lot of people, they would pick work because they wanted the money. And for me, I would rather have a group of people that I could be around rather than the money.
Do you feel like there was anything, any kind of tournament, or do you feel like your performance started to lack? Do you feel like your game started to decline or anything like that?
I got so focused on making money at my job that I kind of started to lean away from jiu-jitsu, and I just had a moment after a tournament, after the no-gi pans, where I lost by an advantage point to somebody I feel like I could have done a lot better against, and that was kind of just what sparked everything. I was like, all right, I gotta do something different because I love jiu-jitsu. This is what I love doing, and this is the time to make the transition. So the next day after that, I went in and told my boss that I just couldn't do it anymore. And it's depressing when you can't do what you want and you're kind of stuck at a job. And I was making amazing money. I was making great, but I wasn't putting anything towards jiu-jitsu, because I was so focused on the things that I never had before, like a nice car, TV, all that stuff, and I was putting all my money towards that rather than putting it back into jiu-jitsu.
Right. No, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, but, like, do you feel like, I mean, you just couldn't, so you couldn't really give your all, you feel like, it's just because you were spread too thin almost?
Yeah, the thing is I would sleep for roughly, I'd say, maybe 5 hours a day. And after doing that for 3 years straight, I'm worn out. I'm exhausted every day. And you can see it when I would come into the gym, my eyes would be bloodshot red because I was just so tired. And that's not really giving my students the best training they can and the best instruction, because I can't really think straight, right? Because I'm tired.
I didn't think you had the same energy. You seemed tired.
Yeah, I was always tired and sluggish.
Somebody your age, like, shit, I'm tired now because I work, and I have a kid and stuff. But I would,
Yeah, I'm 21 and I can barely roll for 5 minutes now.
Well, yeah. I mean, were you nervous kind of, like, quitting your job? Did you talk to Chewy about it first before you kind of made the decision? Because we all, honestly, I think maybe Chewy was in on this conversation, like we said. Like, we were like, why doesn't Chad just go after? Like, we all wish, like, us guys that are older in our 30s, that we started earlier. We all wish that we started when we were younger and, like, we were able to, like, I mean, I'm 33 and I just got my brown belt and I'm fucking stoked. It's a huge achievement. But, like, you're 21, you got your black belt. Like, that's insane. Like, I didn't start jiu-jitsu until I was 26 or 25. Like, that's insane. Like, Chewy, how old were you when you started training?
Wrestling or jiu-jitsu?
Jiu-jitsu.
18?
Yeah, I mean, shit. That's back when you started. That was, like, really...
Well, 18 and then, I mean, if you want to count the time where we used to try to pick apart movies and stuff like that, or videos, we were doing that when we were 17.
What about, like, I'm curious, like, as far as you, when did you think you made the decision to, like, want to train, not train full-time or coach full-time, or just make this your life? Like, as far as, I know you bounced around for some jobs, too.
Well, I mean, I had a good job. It was funny because right when I actually had a big boy, good job, like I was making money.
Right.
And got promotions, stuff like that. Everything was working great. The opportunity opened up. And I've talked about this plenty of times before. Sure. I drove around, all the time. I used to dream about doing this. You know what I mean? Like, but I never knew how it was going to work. And I was driving home after a seminar, and I was really bummed out that I had to get up to work on Sunday morning. And I stopped my car, pulled into a Walgreens parking lot on Bardstown Road in Louisville here, and I called up Derek, and I said, "Hey, can you give me this much money?" It was a very piddly little amount, just enough to cover the basic bills.
And Derek is the owner of our,
and
Derek's like the owner of the gym at the time, one of the main owners.
And then, he was like, "Yeah, we'll start it in June." And then I remember I had no clue what I was going to do, but as I talked to Chad a little bit about it too. You got to kind of sometimes burn the bridge behind you, because too often people will sort of like constantly they rely on that comfort, but then if you burn that bridge behind you and you push forward, you somehow make it work. And that was kind of what happened with me when I burned the bridge behind me. I started going forward, and I just fucking found a way to make it work. Right. And just find a way. That's just the way it works.
There's no turning back. I mean, at that point, you don't have anything to fall back on.
You don't, and so you're like, I'm going to make it work, and it's amazing what you will do if you mix desire with everything. Like when you desire something, when you really want it, like it's different. Like I think I've heard a guy talk about, like, when you want something as bad as you want to breathe. Yeah. Right. Like it just changes things. You'll find a way to make it work. But too often people will just I kind of want it, and they kind of like it's like they're tiptoeing in the water. Just jump in, just do it.
Like people are scared of the, like for me, I love what I do, but man, like I just think about jiu-jitsu all the time, and I don't ever, I have to be realistic. I'm 33. I don't think I'll ever be that high level competitor, that's going to win whatever. But I mean, I could be, I can always get better. That's the goal, to be a little better. Keep improving, and that's the thing about jiu-jitsu that I love, is always improving and trying to learn something. You can always get better. You never get complacent. Even if you get a black belt, you don't. That's not when you get complacent. That's when your game continues to elevate.
I think you can be a fine competitor. I mean, because I think that's more of a self-limiting thought on your end.
Well,
because I mean, because you're an interesting person, because you'll go out there and you'll do this thing where you go out and you'll fucking bomb a tournament. And then when you have it set in your mind that you're like, I am going to kill whoever's in front of me, and I'm going to go after this shit, then you do really well.
Yeah, that's right. I do the same exact thing. When I was working all the time, I knew that I had the potential to win the tournaments, but in my mind I was like, man, I haven't been training as much as these people, and it kind of doubted myself, and that's what led to me losing some of my matches, just because it was in my head.
It's funny, like, I'll tell you, like, I've always watched you. I've watched you compete. Like, even when I first started, I was a white belt, you were probably what? You might have been a green, not green. Were you green?
Yeah.
You were a green for a while. I remember watching you compete, dude. And, like, it was a term we did together. It may have been ego or something. You just, like, would run through people, and it was, like, effortless. And I was like, holy shit, man. It's like I got to put so much work in. And, like, when you go out there, you would just fucking just destroy people. And, no, I mean, it just seemed like it's something that came to you, thanks to you. I don't know. Like, both of you guys, I feel like there's levels. Obviously, you guys know there's levels to jiu-jitsu. And like I'll roll with, like, a purple belt or a brown belt, kind of my level, and I can feel them, and I feel you guys, and it's like, you do the same shit that those people do, but it's just effortless and it works. And I don't know what it is. Like, you're using damn EFO or whatever on me. It's like I freeze. I don't know. It's weird. Like Chewy got me in this, we rolled, and, like, seriously, you got me in those damn arm locks, like, over and over, and I was like, I know what he's going to do.
But that's just,
it's crazy to
see,
me.
that's the beautiful part about it, because it's like, okay, like a chessboard, because everybody likes to use an analogy. You have the same pieces.
Sure.
And technically, if you move your pieces in the right way, you can beat me, right? But we all know if you play against a really good chess player, they'll fuck you up. And it's the same way when you roll with them. We both have 2 arms, 2 legs. Yeah. We've got the same essential bodies, right? And if I move in the right way at the right times, I will beat you. And then, but again, little micro movements and, like, little small adjustments, man, they make the biggest difference. And that's just years in, man.
It's amazing to me. Like, it's still, I've been training probably 8-9 years. I think probably 8 years. And it blows me away, like, just the levels to jiu-jitsu. Like, the levels of black belts. And, I mean, I've rolled some black belts, and, I'll hold my own, and, I do okay, and I roll some black belts and I get crushed, it's amazing the levels, like, like I feel I'll tell you one time, like, this was probably, to me, the biggest compliment from you was, like, when you said, I had to turn it on. I had to turn it on you today.
Sure.
I had to put it on you, and I was like, and you beat my ass, but I was like, you said that to me, and to me that was, like, more valuable. I was like, I mean, I made you work, and that to me means a lot, and, like, as I know you play around, you'll work, and you'll let us work.
It's not
no, you're letting us work.
Well,
I understand.
It's not even letting you work. It's like, think about it this way. Like, I can go out and roll with you, and I can just fucking, like, take you down the side control, and I can submit you, boom, 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 over and over and over again. I get nothing from it.
Sure.
It's boring to me. Like, it's more fun. It's not fun. It's like,
Sure.
okay, so I win. Like, we're not out there having a dick measuring contest. We're out there, like, trying to make each other better. So instead, if I go out there and say, look, man, I'm going to try to play on something I'm specifically working on, like, for that arm bars you were talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like, I've been working on those. So for me, in my mind, I was like, okay, my job today is to hit arm bars, because I'm not that good at them. I'm trying to get them better. And so I got out there and I was hitting them, and I was like, so I walked off the mat successful. I worked on something I'm not as good at. I got better at it. And at the same time, you were able to work against me in a position I'm not as good at.
Yeah.
It's a win-win. It's a much better thing, and that's the way that you continuously get better at jiu-jitsu. it's just like lifting weights, right? If you lift weights and you do the same exercises over and over and over again, you never change your workouts, you're going to plateau. So just the same thing with your jiu-jitsu. You have to change what you're doing, because otherwise you'll end up being one of those guys that says, man, I feel like I'm just getting stuck in a rut.
Yeah.
And every time I talk to someone who says they're stuck in a rut, it's because you're doing the same shit over and over.
Right.
Again.
You're not.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's how you learn.
Yeah.
For sure.
One of the stories I tell to people is when I first started jiu-jitsu, I have extremely long legs and arms, so I always play guard for the most part. And I would go to tournaments, and I would do great against people who didn't have any clue about passing. So I was submitting people left and right. And then there was one tournament. It was actually the first tournament that I lost, and the guy pulled guard on me, and I was clueless. I never trained anything on top, and I was like, man, I don't know what to do. So I just kept trying to roll back over to get to my guard, and the guy mounted me, and I had no clue what to do because I'd never put myself in those positions before.
Sure.
I was always used to just get my guard and try not to let anybody pass. But the moment somebody pulled guard on me, that was the moment that I knew that it was like, all right, I messed up. I need to start adding this into my arsenal. That way, if somebody does this, then I can form a way to react to it. And that's why I don't do a lot of deep half, and that's been the subject that we've been working on this week.
Mm-hmm.
But I still make sure that I learn that stuff so I can break it down and I can know how to stop it. And sometimes you're in a tournament and stuff's just going to pop up, and things that you've shown in class before you're just going to hit. That's crazy.
What do you think, like, your go-to? I mean, you still feel like you're a guard player just based on your build, like your body type?
Yeah, I'm a big guard player, but I'm bottom
Z guard. Knee shield, Z guard, all that stuff.
I like to play from the half guard and full guard, obviously, because of my long legs.
Right.
But over the past few years, I've just learned to use my body and use my length against people. And I wrestled for a good 3 to 4 years, just going to the Indiana wrestling camp. Was what a lot of people don't realize. They're always like, this guy always pulls guard. You know, if I need to wrestle, I can always resort back to that, and I can out-wrestle a lot of people. The main thing for me is, like, going to tournaments, if I have, like, 7 matches and I'm just wrestling back-to-back, I get really exhausted, especially when I was working and stuff. So it was like, I'm going to do this to make it a little bit easier on myself. And at the time I was hurting my back, so I would pull guard. But I can always resort to the top game.
Yeah.
And it all comes based on the first contact that you make with somebody. You can tell how strong they are. You can tell if they're a wrestler. You can tell if they're going to pull guard. And it just comes with time on the mat, so I can tell what to do just from that little scenario, just grabbing your gi. The way that I see you grab my elbow or my collar, I can just tell if you're going to be a wrestler and start shooting for single legs or double legs, or I can tell if you're going to pull guard just from the little movements that I see in your body, and that all comes with just time and reaction.
How do you feel about, like, since you just got your black belt, how do you feel like, do you feel like you have a tournament you have in sight that you want to do? And I mean, are you more nervous about it now because you're at a higher level?
Someone was kind of throwing some hints at me, kind of telling me that he wanted me to do a tournament. He was wanting me to do the IBJJF Atlanta Open.
Okay.
And I might do that.
Someone throwing hints at you?
Yeah, Justin.
Oh. Yeah, no.
He kept coming up to me and asked me like 4 times tonight.
Yeah,
like, Atlanta Open.
Yeah, I'm doing Atlanta.
You're doing. When's that? When's
February?
We'll see, man.
Yeah, it's a pretty big one. It's a good size tournament.
It's a great size tournament, man. Honestly, I don't know that I'm going to do Pans this year, but I think I'm definitely going to do Master Senior Worlds. Like, man, you know, like.
So you do like in Vegas again?
Yeah, the tournament was so much fun because like guys are going after it.
Yeah.
Like the one thing the one beef that I have about like Pans, like the Master divisions of the Pans, is like guys go out there and like they fucking fart. Oh, I was like, what was that? What are you doing? Like slot. I was like, what's he doing? Like wafting it around.
He's sharing the wealth, dude.
But you know, the guys at the Pans, like, man, like you watch those guys. I was watching the Masters divisions, and like everybody's running scared. Yeah. Like fuck that shit, dude. We're out there to like. To me, man, like I would not want to win a match where I watch several matches where guys are running away. Like, dude, you bitched out. You turned into a pussy. Like, you got a point up, and then you're gonna run away.
Yeah.
Like, what a cunt.
At a match like that, no-gi pants.
Yeah, get out there and fucking fight, man. This is what we're here to do. We're here to go at each other. And to me, man, it's like, like, I wouldn't want to win a match where I had to run away. Like, I'd rather lose a match that, like, where we had a fucking shootout, and it's like, you know what, man? You were better than me today. But I don't want to win a match where I have to run away or squeak by on an advantage. I know that, like, a lot of people, they care about the W.
Right.
But at the end of the day, man, like, these things, man, this doesn't matter. You think anybody gives a shit about, dude, like, when we're about to kick the bucket, like, when we're about to fucking be dead, and that's it, we're done. We're, like, our life is ended. We're going to look back at all of our experiences, and we're not going to look back and be like, yeah, man, I got all those medals. But the memories that you have and those feelings that you have will stay with you. And deep down, if you know that you kind of had to run away, granted, you might look at it, people might look at it differently. They might be like, well, I won, right? Yeah. But to me, it's like, man, how did you win? Which is more important to me than did you win, but how did you win? That's so much more important. And then you saw a lot of guys at the Master Senior Worlds this year fucking go at it.
Yeah,
like, they were fighting. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's still boring matches sometimes, but guys were fighting, dude. And that's what it's like. That's what it's all about.
Old man Jiu-Jitsu, baby.
Yeah, so
the thing I see in Jiu-Jitsu, especially the bigger tournaments, you see people who kind of run to the edge of the mat.
Oh.
And I can't hit on them too much because they know how to play the game.
Exactly.
But at the same time, I feel like the reason...
But you're running.
Yeah. The reason I started Jiu-Jitsu is so I could learn submissions.
I
could submit some people.
Yeah.
Rather than... I mean, they're playing the game or whatever, but I feel like the main goal of Jiu-Jitsu is to get submissions, not just kind of be a pussy and run around to the edge of the mat.
And that's my thing, man. Like, dude, like, if you're playing the game, like, dude, like, just...
I've had so many matches where, going back to the takedowns, I would try to shoot a takedown, and the person would just run outside of the mat because he knew that we would get reset, and I wouldn't get anything for it.
Dude,
and I was like, man, this is...
I mean, dude, my match in, like, 2013 or 2015, like, guy got up on points early, no big deal. I took that guy down twice, outside of bounds because he kept running away. I didn't get any points. And then every time, like, at one point, I just threw my hands up and looked at the ref and said, what do you want me to do? I literally said, what do you want me to do? Like, I'm here to fight. This guy's, like, running away.
Were you proud of that performance?
Huh?
Were you proud of that performance?
You know, I gave everything I had, but the problem with it is like, you know, it takes two to tango, right? So it's like, you know what I mean? It was mainly like I got, like, jiu-jitsu blue balls, right? Like, because
I've never heard that term in my life.
Like,
please define.
You know, like, because again, you know, to me, like, when you compete, if you win, if you win, right? If you win the whole thing, there is a release. There's a relief, right?
Yeah.
You get this, like, this, okay, right? And likewise, if there's a loss, but you fucking went at it, man, and you left the mat exhausted, your friggin' hands are curled up, you're sweaty, you can barely breathe, but you're like, you know what, man, I gave everything I had in that match.
Yeah.
You can still walk off the mat and say, all right, man, it's cool. It's, you know, it's like, I gave everything I had. It didn't work out this time, but no big deal. But, like, to lose where you couldn't even get going because the guy wouldn't engage, like, we've only got 6 minutes, bro. Let's just fight. And the guy ran away. Like, it left me with, like, I mean, at one point, literally, like, I was like, trying to go to Mintails, like, go to mount, because I've got a good mount escape that I can turn into a sweep. So I was like, well, shit, like, I'm down on points. Let's try it. I lay down and put my hands behind my head. And I'm like, fucking take mount, dude. And he wouldn't do it. He just, like, stayed there in second. I was like, I mean, I'm like, looking at this guy, I was like, you're such a bitch. Like, I'm giving it to you, bro. Like, let's do it. You know, like, and he, like, to me, man, that stems from, like, a thing where you're like, man, like, you still haven't conquered yourself because you're too scared to go for it, right? And that's the thing that it's all about. Competitions are not about me winning. It's about me conquering my own bullshit, and then that's the biggest thing to me. And then if you're too scared to go for it, if you're too hamstrung by your own fear of losing, then you haven't conquered yourself, and you missed the whole damn point.
I think, man, that leads to a really good point. Like, that whole, like, we were talking about belt promotions and stuff. That whole thing, like, you had mentioned today earlier, do you feel like you should have a say in belt promotions? I wrote, like, I haven't even posted it. I wrote, like, a blog post about it. Like, getting promoted is bittersweet. Yeah. And that's it. Because, like, that chapter is over, but you have a bigger target on it. And you never feel like... There's always going to be a lot of people. I mean, there's always somebody better than you in a lot of situations. But I always felt like I want to stay, like, just to get comfortable at a belt level. You're like, fuck, I got to go back. I got to go up now. I got to start. You're kind of starting from the bottom almost a little bit because
there's a new standard to uphold.
Right, and it's so hard. Like, it really is, like, mentally, like, you're like, kind of on edge, and you kind of have to figure out if you're going to play your game or if you're going to play not to lose, or if you're going to play that, you know, somebody takes your back, you're going to go with it or get submitted or go for stuff. And that's when you talk about getting better. You're never going to get better if you just play your little game, your 2-3 moves that you know that are really hard for somebody to get past, you know.
And again, if that's all you're playing, you're missing the point.
Exactly.
Like, again, you know, to me, one of the coolest things about this stuff is you get these little lessons that are like sort of nestled into the actual training. And one of those lessons is, man, it's just like, you know, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to go for the submission. Don't be afraid to, like, go forward and attack. Don't be afraid to take the chance and leave your job and do something for, like, you know, on a whim and maybe it doesn't work out. Don't be afraid. Like, again, because we'll tell ourselves all kinds of weird shit. You'll tell yourself a story. And, again, part of jiu-jitsu to me is about, like, changing that story. You know, like, maybe you didn't feel good enough to win the tournament. Maybe you second-guessed yourself. Right. Then you got out there and you did it and you won. It's like, oh, maybe there's more in me than I think. And likewise, that goes into your life where you're saying, like, you know what, sometimes I'm not going to feel like I got it, but I know that if I put myself in the situation, I'll figure it out because there's more in me than I think there is, right? Like, and that's the way that I think about it. And to me, that's one of the big lessons you get from it. And if you're not learning that, if you're not letting go of the bullshit that you keep telling yourself and you're still letting yourself be afraid all the time, then you're missing the point.
Well, let me ask you this, Chewy. What do you look at when you're looking at belt promotions? And this is something I wanted to talk about. When you're looking at, I'm looking at this person to promote them. What are you seeing? I mean,
black belt?
Just what do you see in anybody? Like in going from any belt? Like what gives you like the boom? I know this guy's ready from blue to purple, purple to brown.
So white to blue, we do the white belt classes. We judge people in there, and they have to have a basic rudimentary knowledge of the moves. Okay. Beyond that, they have to. Attitude is a big thing. You can't be a douchebag and expect to get a belt. Time, you have to be at least a year in. I'm not going to give it to you any earlier than that. Okay. And you've got to have some level of execution. You know, I can't have a guy get blue belt who, like, gets stomped by the guy that walks in off the street. And then, like, blue belt to purple belt. Blue belt to purple belt means that you're starting to formulate, at least, I've watched you enough that I know that you've sampled. The blue belt is the buffet belt. You're sampling everything, right? You're like, what do you got the basic, you're not getting smashed anymore, you know, not by everyone. You've got a little bit, you've worked your way up somewhere on the totem pole. So you can play around with everything. You've got the basic technique that you can say, okay, let's try this out. Let's see what works for me. And then as you move into purple belt, you're then getting into the situation where you now are formulating the prototype that you will become, right? Like if I roll with you as a purple belt, I know you're getting ready for brown when it's like we roll and I could close my eyes and I could be like, I know who I'm rolling with because I know what you're doing. Like I know who this is, right? Because you've now you're starting to specialize. And then brown belt, you refine, and then black belt, you start over. Because brown belt, you're just refining those weapons again and again to make them ready so that you can get to black belt. And then when you get to black belt, it just starts over because you have no pressure. You know, then you're just out there. And then as far as like why black belt, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. We good on space?
Yeah. Okay. Here's a funny thing. What do you think for Chad? He got promoted recently. What did you see in Chad that you felt like it was his time?
It had been Chad's time for a while. Like, you know, and so what had happened was, you know, I don't promote immediately. Like, I don't say, okay, he's ready. Now we're doing it. You know, it's like I thought he was ready. You know, first off, when I give someone a brown belt, that means that I think that they can make it to black belt. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't like if I wouldn't promote someone to black belt, I wouldn't promote them to brown belt. What I mean by that is, first off, attitude in your person. Like, you have to be just a decent person from what I gather, right? Like, I can't promote a shithead to black belt or brown belt. You know what I mean? Because then you're at a senior belt, people are going to look to you and, do you represent me and the values that I have for the training? Do you represent that as well as I would like, or in the way that I would like? Are you going to continue to keep that trend that I like to follow, which is, again, as instructors, it's our job to give back to those people that are under us. You know, not like call me professor, call me master, whatever bullshit title you want to have. It's about, hey man, I'm giving back to you, so that again it's reciprocal, so that you'll give back to the next person. We just keep that alive, that spirit of giving. Also, like, you have to have your ability to get out there. And Chad's been beating black belt since he was a purple belt kid. You know what I mean? Like, as far as execution, he's good. It was mainly just letting him have time to season at the belt, make sure that he got the idea, like, you're here to, like, you know, do this thing, and then, like, I mean, it was pretty much just a time thing at that point. Like, he seasoned, got some competitions in, he stepped into his own and did really well as an instructor. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then it was like, you know, you know, it's a funny story. I'll tell you this, and Chad he's never heard this story before. So this one time, I heard Chad, I was like having a good time over in Chad's class. And I remember like, it was like a couple years ago, right? Like when Chad had just kind of first started teaching on a regular basis. And it was when he first started getting it. Because when Chad first started teaching, it was like, Chad, run the guys on the ground, beat their ass. That was that. It was when he first started getting like the idea of like, man, like these are my guys, I'm bringing them up. And I remember I got jealous. Because I heard all these people, like, man, they're having a good time. And then like, I was like, kind of like, then they got in, because it used to be they'd step into 7 o'clock class, and that's where they'd start to train.
Yeah.
Right? And then it was kind of still in the thunder a little bit. And then I remember I was like, one day I was like kind of watching, and I was like, I kind of felt jealous. And so I watched him, and I was like, listening to him teach. I was like, what the fuck am I jealous? I was like, he literally sounds like me. Like it's like he's just doing he's doing he's obviously doing it his own spin, but he's doing a lot of the same things that I do. I'm like, why am I fucking jealous? Like he's doing a hell of a job. I was like, he gets it. I was like, he's giving people a fucking awesome experience. He's an extension of just like the way that I taught him. He's doing the same thing with these other people in his own way and making it his own style. But again, it's that same giving feel.
Right.
He's doing to other people. Like, dude, that's amazing. Right? So I was like, cool. Like, what the fuck was wrong with me? Like again, that's one of those like, teacher apprentice dynamics. Because that would be in a situation where you might hear some crazy instructor going off on his guy just because. But then, you got to look more introspectively, and you got to say, look at yourself and be like, why are you getting frustrated? You're like, oh, he's doing exactly what you've always told him to do. Teach people really well. And he did a fucking hell of a job.
Chad, do you feel like there was I know probably you start teaching, you're kind of like introverted guy, fairly quiet, I think. You kind of opened up a lot more, but do you feel like there was a time when like you started teaching, everything started clicking for you? Like you felt like you were getting like your students were getting more out of class, or they were starting to excel or learn more?
I mean, the main thing for me is I thought that people liked me because I was really good at jiu-jitsu and I could whoop everybody's ass.
We don't like you for that.
Yeah, and
That's a
I kind of thought that was the only reason that people liked me at first. And then I realized that they liked me for my actual personality and the way that I was and the way that I treated people off the mat.
Yeah.
Because when we were rolling when I was younger, I would make it my goal to destroy everyone and not let anyone close to me at all.
Right.
And like we were talking about a while ago, that doesn't help your game out in the long run. You stay the same and you don't grow. And you also don't grow as a person.
When did you start changing that? Do you feel like when you started rolling different? I mean, I know you'll go after some people, but like when did you feel like you started changing how you rolled? Is there?
Chewy talked to me a few times, and I really take when someone tells me something, I take it all in, and I take their word and kind of put it into perspective of a way that I can understand it. And Chewy would pretty much tell me, kind of calm down just a little bit. And then I kind of realized that, it's my job as an instructor not to destroy these people, but kind of help them grow as a gym. And if I help them grow, then I'll have better training partners in the end that can help me grow as well. Rather than if I'm just smashing them every time and then I don't show them what they're doing wrong. Don't get me wrong, there's times to roll hard, but if I catch someone consistently with something, I make sure that I take time to show them what they're doing wrong compared to when I was a blue belt, purple belt, I would just keep doing it to them. I wouldn't let them know. I wouldn't let them know it was up because I didn't want them figuring out my game because I thought that's the reason that they liked me as a person was because I was super good at jiu-jitsu. And then I come to realize that I actually do have a good personality and I love helping people, and that's one of the main reasons that I do jiu-jitsu is just because I love to help people out.
Do you feel like when you changed that, do you feel like you had a better response, like people started excelling more or getting jiu-jitsu more or learning techniques better?
Yeah, I feel that I grew a lot as an instructor, and you can tell in the gym, some of the people that go to the beginner's class, when they start to make their way into Chewy's class, they have a great fundamental knowledge of at least what's going on in jiu-jitsu there. And I feel like I grew a lot as an instructor. And when I first started, I wanted to show the coolest move possible every time because I thought that that's what people were interested in. But I mean, when it comes down to it, people are interested in getting good at jiu-jitsu, so the basics are always better. And it's always good to throw something in there that's pretty cool every now and then. But mostly just the fundamentals, what I learned is what's going to help people grow in the end.
Yeah, I mean, no, do you feel like you got better things out of them? Like when you're showing them, you feel like you saw people start improving their game better? I mean,
yeah, and I would always, when I first started teaching, I was kind of selfish, and I would always show what I was good at. So I'm like, we're going to do what I'm good at every day. And then I started to realize, it's not all about me. I'm looking at people who have different body styles, and not everyone's 6'4", and super long legs. So I started to gear towards showing stuff that everyone could use, and I would make sure that I would go around to every different student that had a different body type and be like, well, you could do this instead if your legs aren't long enough to do that. And this week, I made sure that I went to every student, because we've been going over triangles, and there's different ways to get triangles if your legs aren't as long. And I made sure that I went up to the students who don't have particularly long legs, and I showed them the correct way to do it.
I feel like that white belt class is I don't think really had that when I started training. I think it's really big for retention, like, of people, because some people can get kind of, there's two different types of people. I feel like some people that get crushed and just stick with it. Some people that crush and just say, I just don't need this, or I don't want this. Yeah. I feel like you will be able to, I think, keep some people, get them over that hump where they actually start feeling like they're successful.
That was the way the gym was when we first started, or when I first started jiu-jitsu. We had a bunch of MMA guys here. It was either you're going to make it or you're a pussy and you can get out pretty much. And now I've kind of geared it down to, rather than just helping the people that I want to succeed, I want to help everyone succeed now, and I want to make sure everyone is good and they start to get the fun.
Do you feel like that waters down jiu-jitsu a little bit? Having everybody doing it? You feel like
fundamentals class?
No, just having everybody, people that you usually would maybe get, maybe that would quit if it was too hard.
But see, so I think that, what's going to happen is no matter what, you're going to have people leave, right? And this is kind of like one of the things that, like, I have for the instructor course that I have coming out for you guys. There's A, B, and C students is what I think of them. So you've got your A students. Your A students are the dudes. Man, it doesn't matter how you package it. They're gonna keep going.
Sure.
You can beat them up. They're gonna keep training. There are, B students. And those are the guys on the other end of the spectrum that are just, man, it's just not for them. Like, it doesn't matter what you do, how you package it, how you soften it up. They're just not for it. There's those guys in the middle, and this is what you get a lot of times as far as retention goes. You can take those C guys, and I think that's the greater majority of people. And if you build them up properly and give them, like Chad was talking about, like, you give them the fundamentals, because it's one of the things we were big focused on. So this way, when they decide to get into the big pond and go to, like, swim with the sharks, they're better prepared for it. Mm-hmm. They do well, and they can become A students afterwards. Then they're just lifers. But what happens is if you take those C students and you put them into the friggin' grind too fast, then they go the other way. They become B students. And I think that's one of the things where, like, fundamentals class, it's good for one. And I know you're talking about the wow thing. You want to go out there and you want to wow people every single time you step on the mat, but you're not serving anybody well when you wow them, because it's like when you look online, right? You can be wowed every day. You look online and there's some guy that's showing you this new fucking back take off of this, that thing. And you're like, oh wow, that was so cool, right? And all your buddies tag you in it, but then you don't ever see anyone do it. Because it's cool. It's like, wow, cool. It looks really neat, but I'm not going to do that, right? But most people get more value out of, like, the more, like, fundamentally basic moves. And as a coach, to me, that is the every now and then, like, you do it, I do it, we'll go off on, like tangents and some really weird stuff. But for the most part, if you show the really good, solid stuff, the stuff that you can turn on any match and see, whether, even like, and you get, like, we're doing X-Guard and D-Path, there's plenty of match where you can see the really basic stuff that works. That stuff is the stuff that's going to give them such a core, strong foundation, so that then if they see one of those moves online, they can go at it. Or if we go over those, like, little those little fringes, sometimes they can add into the game. But by giving such a strong base, it's good. And again, you're serving everyone, not just those guys that wouldn't stick around, but you're serving everyone better that way. Even all the color belts, they go to the fundamentals class a lot. Even if they'll stick around at 7, they'll still go there because, like, I need to work on my basic stuff. Just it's good. It's good to remember all that stuff,
Yeah, I like, if I get early, I like to sit in that class and just kind of work through stuff, or just even help people. Because I think if you can teach somebody something, it means you you really know it. You know, if you can show somebody and they can do it, you know, if they can reciprocate it, that means that they really, you know,
sure,
it means you're able to really teach them. It means you know your shit.
Yeah, because, you know, to mimic a move, which is the first step, to mimic a move is the first step. But to be able to take that move, digest it, break it down, and then serve it back up to someone and say, "Here you go." Right?
Yeah.
That takes some serious.
Regurgitate.
You have to digest it, break it down, and then give it back to you. Right? That's where it becomes tricky, and that's where, like, a lot of times as teaching, you start with what you're good at because you're like tiptoeing around the waters. You're like, okay, getting some confidence, and then when you know you got them, you're like, okay, they trust me. Let me show you some stuff I'm not as good with, but I know it's going to serve those guys better because they're short dudes, you know, or whatever, you know.
Chad, did you ever think you'd be like where you're at now? You ever thought you'd be like a black belt or just still with jiu-jitsu after all this time when you started?
Yeah, man, I knew. I started out doing Taekwondo. I got my black belt in that, and then.
How old were you?
I don't know, probably like 8.
8-year-old black belt. Killing it.
Like an 8-year-old. 8. And then I did that until I was 10, and then I moved to Capoeira, and I got my black string in that. And then I did a little bit of boxing, because when I first came to Derby City, they wouldn't let me do the jiu-jitsu class because I was too young and they didn't have a kids program.
How old were you when you came?
I think, like 10 or 11.
What made you want to come to do jiu-jitsu? What intrigued you about it?
So one of my instructors at the Taekwondo school, and I had already been learning a little bit of jiu-jitsu before I came over to Derby City. So my instructor, Ryan, he was at Derby City training there as well as the Taekwondo school, and he did jiu-jitsu with Kyle and Colin, and he made sure I was one of his favorite students, so he made sure that he showed me how to fight on the ground as well so I could keep it standing. And he showed me a basic armbar and a basic guillotine. And I waited my time, and Derby City opened on Dixie. They were at the Jazzercise place at first, and they moved to Dixie. And he told me, he's like, all right, you got to come now. So I went over there, and I told them that I wanted to do jiu-jitsu. And they said I could only do the capoeira and boxing at first. So I started doing that for a while, and I waited my time, and then eventually Colin was like, all right, you can come over here and try it, because our other black belt, Tony, he had a son there, and he started training as well, so we started training together.
Okay.
And my first day in jiu-jitsu, the dude probably let me, but it's so funny, this is what got me hooked, is I went in there, and my instructor, Ryan, showed me the guillotine, and I hit it on the guy my first day there, and I was like, oh, man. It's like, that was crazy. I was like, I just beat somebody. And that's what kind of got me hooked. And then ever since that, I knew that I would never quit jiu-jitsu just because.
What do you think got you martial arts in general?
The thing that got me into martial arts is my mom died when I was 5 years old. So we moved to Louisville to get away from just a bunch of stuff and drama. And my first day of school at elementary, a kid came up to me and punched me and busted my nose, and I had blood all over my shirt. And when I went home, I still had the blood all over me. And my dad was like, took me up, as soon as I got home, took me up that day to the Taekwondo school and was like, we got to learn how to defend ourselves.
Like the Karate Kid.
Little did he know it did no damn good.
But yeah, after that, I started doing Taekwondo for a while, and the same kid that punched me on my first day of school, he tried to do it again, and after that, I lit him up because I actually knew how to. My Taekwondo school was more of, we did boxing more so we knew how to use our hands, and he came after me, and I just boxed him up really good, and then after that, I didn't get messed with for a while because people were scared, and they knew that I did at least a little bit of martial arts.
How do you feel like it helped your confidence as a kid? I mean,
it helped my confidence because the first time, I've never been a fight or anything at that point, and the kid punched me in the nose. I didn't even know what to do. I just stood there and looked at him like.
Freaks you out, doesn't it?
Yeah. He punched me right in the nose, and I was like, I don't even know what to do. I was like, this kid just punched me. I was like, I've never thrown a punch in my life. And then as soon as I started to learn how to punch, and the same thing with that Taekwondo school is the instructor, he kind of heard my story that we just moved here and I got hit, and he kind of took me under his wing, and I felt like I was a part of that family, and it helped my confidence grow tremendously.
You like, as far as being a part of Derby City, do you feel like, I mean, I know you had said when you got promoted, it's kind of your family. Do you feel like our gym's special, like, for that reason? Like, not, I mean, probably not all gyms are like, I feel like our gym's special being in another gym and being in this one.
I mean, there's some really good gyms out there, but I've also been to some where you don't. I mean, I can walk into a gym and know what's up. Like, I can look at the way that people react with each other. Like, you know, you look at our gym, like, when you walk in, it's a big circle. Everybody's just chatting. I can look around and see it's like it's not always the same.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the same kind of camaraderie.
We talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, you know, for me, like, I live on the other side of town, and I drive here when I got a gym like 5 minutes from my house.
You know, I think something that actually contributes to that is things like myself, Chad, Joe Clark. Like, none of us are all that, like, I mean, we have some family members that we're close to, but none of us have, like, really big families that we're close to. And I think because of that, like, the family, like, thing that we get, I mean, I don't mean this in any, like, stretch, like, you know, that family sort of dynamic we get is from the gym, where we're like, hey, it's like our brothers, our sisters, like, you know, like, man, like, it really is genuinely good to see him. Like, I feel close to him.
Right.
And so it's like, you know, I think that, you know, that's one reason why it's like that, because like it's not just like, hey, come in and train and get the hell out of here. It's like, oh man, I'm glad to see you, man, because again, I don't have a big family that I'm close to. I'm like, I got you guys. I see you guys more than I do most of my family, you know?
I think the main thing that helped me grow is when I came to Derby City, I had a lot of great mentors, and you know, I really took what they said to heart. If they would tell me that I needed to do something, I'm like, all right, I would listen to that person, because I felt like I had a closer relationship. And with Jiu-Jitsu, you're face-to-face with someone for an hour straight.
Right.
You know, you're close. And
I think it's more pure. There's no bullshit. Like, really,
exactly.
like, if somebody's better than you, you can say you're this belt or that belt, but when you actually put your hands on each other, you're going to find out who's deserving or who's what level, you know.
That's right. And
I think that's one thing you see through the bullshit in jiu-jitsu when you actually grapple. You know, if somebody's like, "Look,
I would listen to what people would tell me that I needed to do in the gym, and then I would listen to people outside the gym, and it was like, it's two completely different stories. And I could have been the person who's like, you know, fuck people at the gym. I'm listening to people here, and I'm going to do my own way, and I'm going to do all this. But I was smart, and I really did take everything that was told to me into heart, and I put that into play. That's what's helped me move along with my jiu-jitsu career.
Yeah, I think there's just, like, you got to look at people's motivations, too.
Yeah.
Like, if you're at the gym, like, there's no, like, there's not really a lot of bullshit. Like Chewy's not going to tell you something. He's not going to, he's not going to have any ulterior motives, you know. He's just going to tell you what the fuck he thinks and what he thinks is best for you. You know, he's not going to tell you something just to keep you around, or because I think if you are around somebody that does that, just tells you what you want to hear, eventually you're going to see through the bullshit, and you know, and that's where you're going to leave and go somewhere else. And we've had people at the gym that have left and gone somewhere else, and they just, I don't think they've ever really bought in or really kind of let themselves go, I think, in the gym.
Yeah, you know, like we talked about that back in the locker room earlier, you know, like, a lot of people think, oh man, like we kind of think sometimes you think you're weird. It's not you're being weird. We've gotten so close to one another that we can take the social mask off,
right?
And you can just be yourself. And you know, sometimes people come in, I think they're a little like offset by that. They're like, whoa, like these guys are being like they're fucking.
Will they grow into it?
Yeah, they either grow into it or they're like, I don't know, like I don't know if this is for me, right? Got all these weirdos in here, which again, I don't really care.
But we don't judge, and nobody is judged. Like everybody is like taken for what they are, and like, you know, everybody's got a story, and everybody's different, and like, you know, we make jokes and we say shit, but like everything comes from a place of like we love each other, honestly, and we fucking just bleed together and fight together. Is just
from teaching the beginners class so long. You'll see that people will come in on their first day, and everybody's weird, and everybody has something to them that makes them unique. And you'll see them come in their first day, and they're kind of shy, and they're not talking to anybody.
Right.
But then after, like, a week or two in, they start to open up, and then you start to see who that person truly is. And
Or you get a guy with a bandana that walks in and tell you he's going to be the best MMA fighter.
Yeah.
Mark his words.
Yeah. That recently happened, or was that back in
that was today, man.
That was today?
Yeah, so
the guy signed up.
Well, yeah, he did. But we'll see if he actually stays around. He signed up, but he came in and he was late, and so Cam was like, what do you want to do? And he's like, well, I'll go back to the Dollar General, man. I'll be right back.
Anybody like that, don't let him roll. So anybody who walks in like that, never let him roll.
Well, he wanted to come in. He wanted to spar.
Yeah.
He's like, man, I want to spar. Like, you can't walk in.
I love it. There was some young kid that came in, and I remember this too. Chad, you fucked him up. He came in, this young kid.
Kenneth?
I don't even know.
His name was Kenneth. I remember Kenneth.
Don't be calling people out.
I don't give a shit.
So, this kid came in.
He broke his shoulder.
He came in and, like, fucking
said
something to Chad. Like, Chad's running class, and he's like, say something like along the lines like he's like, I could take Chad. And Chad's like, oh. And I was like, oh, you fucked up, kid. Yeah. And Chad fucking murdered this kid. And
that's when he knew he just fucked up.
I mean, that's like, don't do that shit. Like, I mean, like, honestly, it was funny because this happens more often than not. Like, Chad, when he was younger, I mean, Chad's pretty tall now, but he was never, like, a huge guy. And, like, we'd see these, like, little bandana, quote-unquote bandana guys come in, with their tap-out shirts. And, like, it would be funny because, like, you'd send Chad over there and he would just rough him up.
Oh, yeah, Chad used to have a wink.
And it's like this little kid.
Got it.
It's like, who's this little kid that's like just like 60? You're like 16 years old, and just these grown men come in and make them feel like little rag dolls.
But with those young kids that come in like that, that's just a sign of insecurity, man. Yeah. It's just like that's an incomplete male.
That's what's cool about jiu-jitsu, because some of those people that have came in and, like you said, you put me on them to kind of rough them up. They kind of either they'll just quit or they'll change their entire life around. And I've seen that 100 times where a guy will come in and he'll get humbled, and now the person that we do is Seth. They're like, "Hey, Seth, get over there," and he'll rough them up, and they'll be
Seth's
change
like
their
16,
entire
wrestler, a good solid lot of energy.
They'll change their entire life around, or they'll just quit. It's just based on their mentality.
Yeah,
they're like, all right, I want to learn this stuff, and then when you hop into the journey of jiu-jitsu, everything starts to change, and you start to see things more clearly because it makes you break down the different.
Right. I think to clarify, like, nobody's like comes in and gets picked on.
Yeah.
Like, people come in and they like say stupid shit like, "I want to fight UFC," or "I want to," I'm. Whatever, like that guy said.
For me,
say that shit.
If you say that stuff, like, you say fight UFC, I'm like, all right, man, cool, whatever. It's when you start to, like, again, I know what it is. It's like you have a young guy that feels very insecure, and his reaction of making himself feel secure is basically being tough, right? And so it's like he starts to go, okay, like, I think I can take him. I think I give you a good run for your money, that kind of thing. I mean, because we've seen it happen plenty of times.
Sure.
And that's when you have to, like, you have to dispel their ignorance. You have to show them, like, man, this is what it's actually up. Yeah. Like, I understand you think that it's this way, but this is not the way that it actually is. Here's what it actually is, and this is what you're getting into. And that's when you take, like, a young kid and just let them put him in a pretzel and be like, eh.
I like those videos that with and I think those guys, like, it's like bodybuilders versus jiu-jitsu.
Oh, that shit was so fake.
Yeah, well, I think those guys actually come in, like, knowing they're going to get their ass beat, but they know they're going to get, like,
That's a guy that he does YouTube videos.
Right, but he really got choked out, though.
Yeah, he got choked out, but I mean, like, it's kind of like you just know, like, okay, well...
Right, he's going to get a reaction.
Yeah, I mean, because, dude, he was, like, acting like, he was fighting a guy, but, like, he's, like, doing this. Like, he's not actually punching. He's, like, shaking his hands and going for, like, double legs and stuff. Like, no one does that when they're fighting. Like, it was just, it was, for me, it was just...
You think people that talk a big game about fighting always know how to fight?
My favorite thing is...
Anyway, you talk a big game, period. Like, I mean, show me the guy that just shuts the hell up and trains. I'll tell you right now that those are the guys that don't last. It's like I call them shooting stars. It'll be the student that comes in, he's the biggest, brightest, loudest, whatever student, and then he talks about it, posts on Instagram, Facebook, all that shit about it, and then he burns out. It's
Jiu-Jitsu lifestyle, baby.
It's the guys, Jiu-Jitsu lifestyle? It's the guys that come in, that don't say shit, that fucking just come in and train. They're quiet and they just fucking grind forward. Those are the dudes that are going to be your future, black belts, because they're just in it because they enjoy doing it. They don't need a pat on the back from social media or from someone else. They're like, I'm glad that I was here today because I was here.
Yeah. Do you like something like internally, like do you feel like personality wise, just more humble? Do you feel like there's something in them that you see?
It just goes down to the person. Like, what are you seeking? Are you seeking like people's attention? Right? Like, is that why you're doing this? Because you want to be an MMA fighter? Because you want attention? Because you want to be, quote, a tough guy? Or are you doing this because you really want to see, like, what do you have in you? You really want to test yourself and you want to go through the journey. Because if it's the latter, then you want to do it. It comes from you. Your desire to get into this comes from a place of inward, like discovery, not of outward sort of like recognition. And so I think that's the biggest thing is like it comes from a different place. And so the people when they come in that really want to do it just because they want to do it, those are the dudes you got to watch out for. It's the guys that come to talk about it and what they're going to do and all this other stuff because we've seen plenty of them. Yeah. You know what I mean? And they just fizzle out because again, all of a sudden you're in here on a night and you're grinding your dick into the ground and nobody cares. Like, right. No one's like saying, "Hey, good job today. You got choked for the 16th time today. Good job." Like, you just like get in there and do it like the rest of them. You know?
Chad, what do you think got you addicted to jiu-jitsu, or what do you think made you think that you were gonna be at this level? Did you ever dream to be at this level? Because you're a pretty talented guy. I think you still have your ceiling is high. I don't think you're there yet.
I'm gonna tell a story about how I got my nickname, the Beast. When I started jiu-jitsu, I won about 8 tournaments in a row, just back to back. EGOs and bluegrasses and those kind of tournaments. And every day that I would come in, a front man that we had at the time, his name was Julian, every time I walk in, he's like, "There's a beast." And he just kept calling me that. And then next thing you know, it started to catch on in the gym. And everyone's
now you wear the beast shirt.
Yeah, now I got the beast shirt, and everybody was starting to call me that. But I knew from a young age, if I put in the work and I put in the consistency, and this is the thing that I preach to my class all the time, is just consistency. If you put in the time into something, then you're going to get good at it. And I feel like I put my time in, and I wanted to be great at this sport, and I was here every day, and I put in my time, and everything just clicked together when it was time for those tournaments because I didn't mess around. I went in there to win.
What does a black belt mean to you? I know it's just a belt. We say it's just a belt. It's just a colored piece of cotton. What does it mean to you, man?
It's hard to even put into words because there's some people on one end of the totem pole that are like, belts don't matter. They don't mean anything. And then there's other people who are like, belts are the world. And like they look at black belts like, they start calling you master and all kinds of other stuff. And to me, it was a really exciting moment when I got my black belt because I just put so much time and I put so much work and effort into it. At the end of the day, it's just a piece of cloth, and like we talked about earlier, you'll find out who is truly deserving of those belts when you actually start to wrestle. And but to me, belts mean a lot. If like me, I was dedicated to the sport and I was motivated. I didn't really care about the belts, but it still meant a lot to me, and it just showed my progress. And that
right, yeah, you were.
Along.
I understand.
It's like when you get a stripe in class, it's like when you look at it, it's like it's just a piece of tape. It's like you're putting a tape on a piece of cloth, and you're like, But that means a lot because it shows that you're starting to progress, and it shows that your instructors are actually looking at you. And it's like, oh man, my instructor just gave me a stripe today. That's awesome.
You've been recognized by the people that are above you that are saying, "Hey, like I'm recognizing that you are improving, and I'm recognizing that you're getting better." And like you said, it doesn't necessarily mean anything like tangibly. Just it's something. It's just something, but it's the meaning behind that thing that's been given to you by that person above you that you respect. It's like, man, this is awesome.
It's like validation. It is. Like I think it doesn't really, like I said, like material wise, it's just a piece of tape, but like it's valid. It's just something that says that like
I'm growing.
Yeah, you're growing. Like you're
you know what? You know which like belt / stripe gets the most social media?
White
belt, first stripe. That first stripe, man. Like when we'll give someone a first stripe, we'll see it. Like we get
I think it's awesome.
And like boom, like so this happened tonight. Like boom, like first stripe. You know what I mean? And people get creative with their belts too. They'll like string them like over something. Like oh, here's this belt just randomly laying here. Click picture.
That's my favorite stripe to give is the first stripe in Jiu-Jitsu because people just get overwhelmed with like, oh shit, dude, I just got a stripe. Like this is awesome. I'm gonna tell every single person about it.
Yeah, you're not.
And a good buddy of mine, one of my best friends, Patrick, the first night that I gave him a stripe, he was posting all about it and he was talking the entire night about getting a stripe, and that just goes to show that it does mean a lot to certain people. And there's going to be some people who don't care about the belts at all, and there's going to be people, that means the world to them because they never had much. Like, going back to my buddy Patrick, you grew up in a rough neighborhood like me, and when you give him something, he's like, oh, dude, this is, that means the world to me.
Right. Compared
to someone who's had everything their whole life, you just hand it to him, like, whatever. It means more to certain people.
It means a shit ton, man. Like, I think, like, when I got my brown belt, like, it didn't sink in. Like, it didn't sink in at all. Like, it's still,
Probably
like, I think...
I didn't even have him at the time.
Chewy!
Like, oh, where's my belt? Like, you didn't sink in. Just stare at it.
I'll tell you,
those fucking belts came in at 9 in the morning the next day.
Let me tell you, what was better than that belt. First of all, one of the things that I enjoy about getting promoted is actually having you put the belt on. Not because like people see it, just what it means to have you put the belt on. That's the one thing. So when you got those belts, and I was like, I'm not putting that belt on until you put it on.
Yeah.
That was one thing for me. The other thing you did, which I know you felt bad about having the belts. That's a material thing. I think you wrote like letters.
Yeah.
Chewy wrote love letters to everybody, and he put lipstick on and like kissed them too and stuff. No, I
put lipstick on my butthole.
Oh my god, no! But I'll tell you, man, I was so pumped to read that letter, and I don't know if everybody felt that, but I was like, I'll get the belt next time I'm in. I'll get a belt. It's fucking fine. Chad let me borrow his brown belt, which he didn't need anymore because he's a damn black belt now.
Man, I wanted to. With that, going back to it, I wanted to pick, because I had 2 belts that I would wear every day, and I like to do this with people that get promoted, people that mean a lot to me, and people there, and people that I see putting in work, and I like to get 2 belts, that way I can give them to 2 people every time.
Mm-hmm.
I've gave away every single one of my belts to different people, and, I think that means a lot to the people that I give the belt to, and it just shows that I'm looking at them too. And, I look after every person at the gym.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. Like, I mean, I think, like, just getting that, like, knowing a validation from you guys, because it means a lot, because we look up to you, because I feel like you guys are, obviously, I wouldn't be here if I didn't feel like I had tons of respect and tons of admiration for what you guys do, and, I want to be at your level one day. It doesn't mean I'll ever get there, but that desire to get there is what keeps driving me, and that not necessarily the desire to get the black belt, but like even if you get the black belt, the desire is to get better at that level. And I think that's the same thing for you guys. I mean, I think you guys are always constantly doing new shit and going out there and competing. And Chewy, you've been on a fucking tear. I think it needs to be said, like as far as tournaments go, you've been on a tear, and like you've been killing it. I'm proud of you, man. I think you're as you're getting older, you're actually getting freaking better. It's crazy, man, how much better you're getting. And like,
Chewy's grown a lot in the last year.
It's insane. We don't talk about that a lot, but like honestly, man, watching you compete, like before, I would like when I see you compete, I'd be nervous for you. Fuck, man, I hope Chewy does well. And then we were in Charlotte, and I was like, this guy's fucking done. Like, Chewy's about to mess this dude up. And, like, you just went, and it was so effortless. You just messed the guy. I mean, you just did whatever you wanted. You submitted him. Boom, boom, boom. And like, it's so amazing to see that. Like, it's so good to see that level. And, like, you practice what you preach. And I respect that because you're like, I'm going to go out there. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna put it out there. I'm gonna play my game, and I'm gonna play my game. Whether I get the W or not doesn't matter. But no, you've been on a tear. And I think I think you're playing the best jiu-jitsu you've played. It's absolutely awesome to watch.
Chewy really learned how to fine tune his game, and
it's unreal, man. He's a different person when he goes out there. You do, man. You flip, and it's
Oh,
done.
you're a different person for sure.
You're just like, I wouldn't be. I mean, you know.
Well, it's because the body takes over, man. There's
It's unreal.
I'm sure Chad. I think we all have probably the sensation to some degree. For me, like when I watch it was the same way with fighting. I would go back and I'd watch like fights, or I'd watch a jiu-jitsu match, and I watch that person, and it's like you're watching someone that's not you. Like it's not me. I don't know who that is. It's like this guy that looks like me, sounds like me, moves like me, but he's better. Like he's better than what I am. He's more aggressive than what I am. He's just different. You know, that's just because, again, you go out there and you just let your body take over and do what it's supposed to do.
I think some people excel at tournaments. Some people, don't. Like, some people will be at jiu-jitsu, like, they'll be at, like, just class. They'll be in class, and they'll just go out there and they'll completely bomb. Or they'll go out there and they'll just, like, pull off shit. Like, you're like, what the hell?
It all comes back to the confidence. I mean, especially people with their first tournament. It's nerve-wracking to go out there. I mean, I still throw up before every single
I threw up
competition.
my mouthpiece. I tell them all the time. I threw up my mouthpiece after my first match.
I remember I was at the IBJJF Worlds, and there was a trash can nearby, and I was just sitting there, and they called my name, and I was ran to the trash can as fast as I could. I was like, ugh.
You're such a wuss, Chad.
The dude was looking at me. I was like, great, I gotta compete against this guy. I just threw up.
Did you ever see that video of this guy? They were rolling, he farted, and the other guy threw up, and he tapped out. That was awesome. Oh my god, no!
Like, I can taste it.
Yeah, I mean, everybody says it, like they throw up before, like a lot, like fighters say they throw up. Like I think Tito Ortiz would say he'd throw up every single fight.
He used to.
Really?
Just get the battle craps. But I mean,
battle craps is what
oh shit, my God.
A lot of that, when I was competing all the time as a kid, I didn't really get the nerves. But then as I started becoming an adult and I got the job.
You get the pressure.
Yeah, and I was one of the main instructors,
right.
So I was like, oh man, there's just a lot of pressure on me. I had all my students there, and I was like,
what about that tournament that was here at the gym? When you had a big brown belt super fight.
That was fun.
That was unreal, man. And that was one of my worst memories, one of my best memories. It was one of my best memories as far as like watching everybody else do their thing. It was one of my worst memories. It was one of my worst performances.
Because you went out there and fucking you did that thing that you do, which we talked about earlier, which is where you go out there sometimes and you play like shit and you don't really get into it. And then the next time you fucking like really get in your mind that you're going to go fucking kill it and you go kill it. Because you wouldn't compete like, a week or two later and you fucking went out there and got after it.
People make fun of me for that all the time because after the match I got up and I was like, fuck yeah, in front of like a whole row of kids.
Yeah, whatever.
I was like I was so happy of winning.
Crazy. Man, it was amazing like watching it.
Yeah. That one.
Y'all go at it.
That was an especially like good win. I mean,
yeah.
It's a tough opponent, So.
Yeah.
That one I wasn't nervous, but I made the mistake of going out with some friends in the morning and getting like a huge burrito.
You fucking idiot. So they get here early, and I'm talking, it was like you, Braden, who else was it?
Brian.
So I was like, look, man, go get some food, dude. You guys will be good, right? And like, just get something small, something easy. I'm thinking like oatmeal, dude. Like, go get some oatmeal and some like eggs or something. Those assholes go get big breakfast burritos, and they're shitting their guts out and throwing up. I'm like,
dude, that fucking burrito is bigger than my head. It was crazy. It was delicious, though.
Now, I will say even more impressive, because this is something I think is impressive. So, Chad struggled at big tournaments, but like he'd still compete at like these. He would crush it like anything regionally, right? Like he would crush, right?
Chad crushed at the Okiga.
Well,
I remember that.
About crushed the freaking guy that was running it.
That was
Chad was
in a lunchroom. I remember that.
Chad was the only guy to get kicked out.
Yeah, Chad comes out. Listen, this is a funny story. Chad's like, 16, 17 at the time? Yeah. Chad comes out. I'm with my parents. My parents went to this tournament, and Chad's like, dropping F-bombs left hand. He's like, this is fucking bullshit, and just yelling. I'm like, oh my God. And like, I'm like, looking at my parents are like, looking at this kid, and I was like, my parents are pretty laid back. And Chad was just pissed, like, I got my medal, so I don't care. He just walked.
that tournament. So like where
That's so embarrassing.
The big rub happened because Chad and I were watching. So there was this kid named Zane that used to compete locally, and we always used to watch him. He's always the best.
Yeah, I like that kid.
Yeah. And so we saw him competing in there against the cage or whatever. And dude, this was ridiculous. They had the kids competition, and they're in this like cage.
That's
right,
awesome,
and so you would see these kids like grab the cage and like they'd have this one match in particular. This kid was a mismatch. This kid was about like 50 pounds heavier than another kid. And this other kid kid's running away from him, and he's like grabbing the cage and he ripped him away from him. So anyway, so we were kind of like we're seasoned competitors, so we were keeping score in our head. And at the end, they raised the other kid's hand, who just so happened to be the son of the referee. And we're like, wait a second. We're like, hey, what was this? And Chad gets out there. He's like, what's the score, ref? And, like, they have no answer. They weren't keeping points. And he was like, this fucking started with bullshit. You know, and this guy that was like a super douche. And he's like, oh, get out of my gym or whatever. Just like,
get out of my lunchroom.
I went out there because Zane was a good friend of ours, and his dad talked to my dad a lot, and they hung out.
Yeah.
So I knew Zane for a while, and then I was keeping score, and the score in my head was 12-2. Zane.
That's insane.
And I was like, and then they raised the other kid's hand, and I was like, hold on. So, I probably shouldn't have done, but I went out to the referee, and I wasn't being an asshole or anything. I just went out there to ask him, I was like, where'd you get the points from? And that's all I asked him. I was like, how was the point scored? And he told me, he's like, I don't do jiu-jitsu competitions, so I don't know. And the referee was being honest with me. And then the person who ran the tournament came out and was like, get off my mat, and like started yelling at me. And that's when I had a lot of anger problems as a kid, and I didn't like when people kind of got in my face. They got in my face, and I was like, all right, dude. It was like, you just made it personal. I was like, I was just going out there to ask, like, maybe I saw a different match than what he saw, so I was kind of asking him. I wasn't being an asshole about it, and then the other guy just came out of the corner, and I actually liked the referee, I've talked to the guy before, he's a nice dude, and I was just asking him, and he clearly told me, he's like, I haven't ever reffed a jiu-jitsu tournament before, and
why?
So,
why are you
so
reffing?
it was all good up to that point until the person who was running it came up to me and got in my face, and
they had the best medals, though. The spinning medals.
Yeah. The friggin'
spinners.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's pretty good
I wish
stuff.
I still had that medal.
I think I still have mine hanging up.
Actually, I think I left it there because I was so mad. I threw it on the ground, and it was.
You have like two
still
of them
at the tournament. Yeah, well, I threw them both on the ground because it was like,
Chad,
this tournament.
Those are.
I made a really mean post about how bad that tournament was.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, and like
you're good at mean posts. I'm glad you didn't do that one about the hotel, the microtel.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was classic. Do you still have that?
Yeah.
That's why I like having Chewy around, because I get so mad that I just end up writing "fuck you," and Chewy puts it into like a good perspective.
I give you an eloquent middle finger.
Yeah.
No, but dude, seriously, so I write this long post, and the next Monday, like this like little like this guy comes in the gym, and he just stands here and watches me teach for a few minutes. And I'm like looking at him, and I'm like, man, like just during the morning class, I was like, "Can I help you, brother?" He goes, "I just wanted to say thank you because I was planning on doing a tournament or something with that guy, and I saw your post. Thank you for letting me know how it really is." And he like shakes my hand. He goes, "My name is Sensei so and so." He like bows and he walks out the door. I was like, "What the fuck is that, man?" Like, it's so weird.
It's weird how different martial arts have. Those people that are just
there's
really
different
into
levels
it.
of like
yeah,
but
like,
not even
you go to
jiu-jitsu.
certain gyms, you can't even roll with the black belts unless they ask you. They have to talk to you.
Oh, dude,
it's kind of weird. It's like, man,
it was like that when I was up at that gym like this past weekend.
Like we went to the open mat on Friday, and I had white belts ask me to roll. I was like, cool. I was like, yeah, of course I'll roll. I was like, I'll roll with anybody. I don't care who it is. And you go to other gyms, and it's like, oh, just because I have a black belt, I'm a better person than you. And at the end of the day, it's like, it doesn't really mean that much. It comes down to if you're a good person or not.
What do you feel like jiu-jitsu's made you a better person?
Yeah, for sure. I've grown around, and it was all part of being at a great gym as well. I could have went to a crappy gym with crappy mentors and seen people robbing other people, and then I could have took that. Because, when the way that I grew up in a bad neighborhood where all you knew was selling drugs or, killing people, robbing people. That's what I grew up to, and I could have easily became another thug who was doing all that stuff, but I made sure that I took to heart, like I said, what everybody was telling me at the gym. And there was one point, it was funny, I was wearing like all the baggy clothes, and Chewy makes fun of me for this all the time. I was wearing like a freaking huge baggy shirt that I seen like all the other people on my street wearing, so I could have easily been one of those guys still.
Triple XL.
Yeah, the triple XL
white
tees.
tee.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I'm freaking hood, but I realized that.
I wore FUBU once.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I did the same shit.
Do you still have that?
No, I don't have no FUBU. I had like a dress down day at my middle school, and so I was trying to be all cool like the hood kids, and so like, I wore FUBU, and like I get in there and like one of the kids goes, "Man, do you know what that means?" I'm like, "No." He goes, "For us, by us." I'm like, I'm just dumb little naive white boy, like I don't get it. He's like, "For us, by us," like for black people by black people. I was like, oh.
It's all right. It's all good. Just show respect.
I never understood people's fascination with shoes and stuff. Like when I was younger, I was poor and I had the Shaq shoes, so I was.
Oh yeah, the Kmart special,
enormous feet. So and people would always make fun of me for wearing like Shaqs. I'm like, I don't. It's like it's a shoe.
It's crazy, man. Like I don't.
Oh, dude.
But it was cool because the transition. As soon as I got out of the high school era, I was like, everybody's cool now. It was like when I went to college, I loved it because everyone had their own mindset down, and they're all, like they didn't care about anything. They're like,
it's not about that. Like, I mean, do you feel like you had a hard time in school, like even when you were in high school and stuff, or do you feel like just being part of doing jiu-jitsu and stuff that made it easier?
When I was in, I'll start from elementary. So elementary, obviously, I started my career in martial arts. And I kind of stopped getting picked on as much there. And then I started winning some Taekwondo tournaments when I was in middle school. And that's when I started Jiu-Jitsu, and I started winning those tournaments. And some of my friends at school, a good buddy of mine, Jake, he went to the gym as well. And we kind of grew up together. And we all did martial arts, started from Taekwondo. And then we both transitioned over here. And he would tell people at school, because I could beat him, and he would tell people at school, I was like, dude, this guy is crazy. And then it was funny, when we went to high school, Jake got freaking huge because he started pumping iron and just got super big. And he was telling people, he's like...
I remember Jake.
Yeah.
Yeah, where's he been?
He just said that he wants to come back. So hopefully...
He's probably like fucking big gorilla now or something.
He's huge.
Is he really?
Yeah,
I remember he started lifting. I was like, he's getting strong too.
Yeah, that's all he does.
I remember Jake.
Just lift and eat. But he was in high school, and he was a freaking huge kid, so, he was walking around with his chest all up, and people are terrified at him because he's big. And he was like, yeah, my buddy over here, this little scrawny kid is like, can tie you into a pretzel. And, nobody really messed with me until senior year, because senior year is when everyone wants to make a mark or an impact, and so I had some people mess with me. I got in a few fights my senior year, but other than that, I had a pretty smooth. As soon as people found out that I did martial arts, they kind of get scared. They don't know what the martial art is. They just see like the TV and it's like, oh shit, this guy like knows what he's doing, and that alone will kind of scare people and back them off.
Yeah,
because they're looking for the kid who's kind of with their head down, backpack, like kind of just shrugging over.
Scrunched over.
Those are the people. I made sure that after middle school, I had more confidence, so I would walk the halls with my posture up, and I would just look at people, because I had such anxiety of going to school. I would just look at the floor the entire time and walk down, and then something clicked with me. It was like, man, like I'm confident. It's like I can be with these people if I have to. They can be my friend or they can't be my friend. It's gonna be like that. So I started to get more confident. I walk with my shoulders up, and I was able to look at people and start holding better conversations rather than just like
looking at the floor.
Yeah.
Do you feel like emotionally, jiu-jitsu really like made an impact on you, like as far as like mentally, emotionally? Do you feel like it had some positive benefits? I mean, for me personally, I feel like it helps. I feel better. Like I feel physically, I feel mentally better. I feel like I just feel better.
I have anxiety and crippling depression. And I had to go to therapy for a while. And the thing with therapy is it's not personal at all. And I went to therapy for a year because they made me, after an incident happened where I was in the hospital or whatever, so they made me go to it. And I was like, it's just not personal. So every day the person would come in there and I was like, how do you feel today? I'm like, you know, and that's all I would say. They're like, well, have you done this? Tell me about this. And I wouldn't talk to him. It was like, you're not my friend. I was like, I don't know you at all. But when you come into the gym and you start doing jiu-jitsu, you know, I'm in your face rolling with you the entire day. So I would start to talk to people like Justin and Chewy and other people, and they kind of helped me through my depression. And when I would come in here, I could get off some stress. And we talk about this a lot, me and my friends at the gym. If you're feeling anxious or you're depressed or anything, you come in here, you get a good hard roll, you know, you're not even thinking about it anymore. You're like, man, I had some good rolls today. I was like, I had fun. And it just kind of gets your mind. And even after 10 years, you know, right now I just started teaching full time. You know, in the back of my mind, I'm like, how am I going to do it? How am I going to do it? But when I come in here and I get on the mats, I'm like, yeah, whatever, you know, I'll make it.
What's your motivation now as a black belt? And Chewy, that's like for you as well. Like, is there like any, for both of you guys? I mean, like, you know, that's like that big achievement, whether you look at belts in a high, you know, in a high regard or not. Like getting a black belt, being a head instructor, being one of the main instructors is huge. I mean, what's your motivation now to continue to grow or continue to, like, you know, just to put it out on the mat?
You want to go first? Me first.
Yeah, I'll go first. So when I started jiu-jitsu, the main thing that I wanted for myself was fame. You know, I wanted to be the dude that I wanted to be the guy who's on the magazine, like all the top names right now. I wanted to be that guy. But I've kind of geared more towards, you know, as long as I have the money that I need to pay my bills, you know, I'd rather just start helping people out. Because when I was younger, I would go to churches and schools and do like motivational speeches and stuff, and kind of found that that's truly what I like doing, is just helping people. So that's more what I'm geared towards as a black belt.
Likewise, I mean, there's two ends of the spectrum, two sides of the coin. One is for my own personal growth. I want to make sure that I'm continuously getting better, because for me, like, you know, again, I think a lot of us feel as though there's so much more. There's so much more in me. Like, I'm not, like, just like we talked earlier, I feel like I'm having my best run now at this point, right? So I'm getting, you know, there's more in me. So I want to see what my body can do and what else I can do as far as competition goes. One for myself, and then one for everyone else around me. Because I feel like if I pull myself up, then I pull everyone else with me. Like, come on, man, like, let's go, right? Because everyone's tethered together. We're connected. And then there's the other side of it, which is I'm wanting to develop people more and help them out. Because one of the things that, like, I've just now become more comfortable with is just letting go, right? There'd be things I wanted to say to people, ways I would want to help people out, but I would always, I don't know, like, I don't feel comfortable doing it now. I'm just like, fuck it, let's just do it. Mm-hmm. You know, like some of the stuff that we're going to do, like that I have planned with the instructor course, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of like, just like getting a group of people together and bonding even further. And I'm looking forward to that. And that's something I've been toying around with 2 years. Literally, I've had this course laid out for 2 years. In 2014, awesome. I laid it out. I spent like 3 weeks working on it, like all the time. And then I was like, well, I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel comfortable doing it. And now I'm like, well, screw it, let's just do it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care anymore. Like, you know, because it's like, I feel like, you know, we're all in this together. But again, going back to what Chad said, the reason I want to do that is to build more people up. I want to have this gym open so we can build people up, where people can come in and reap the same benefits that I've got, that Chad's got, that you've got, that everybody's got, and give it to those people and bring it to him. Like, just, you continue to, everybody builds up together, man. So it's like there's the competition aspect, and there's also just like, and then for just a simple fact, like, again, I don't need something to like chase. Like, for me, it's like, you know, I had a good day today. That was great. You know, like, training went well today. I'm like, you know, I do this thing every morning. It's a morning journal. Actually, like, if you look, one of the people that watches me on YouTube, they sent me a bunch of journals and fountain pens.
Well,
check this out.
Chewy's got a secret. Look at that.
That's a straight up fountain pen.
That's
dude.
awesome.
That's
dude.
dope.
Wow.
And
let me write in this thing. Hold on.
So,
writing fountain pen.
So I keep a journal, and one of my journals that I keep is a morning journal.
That writes really great.
And the morning journal is
feel smarter.
I'll give it back now.
Look at my little pen.
But and with the morning journal, it's you start with doing the things you'd like to accomplish today, and then you end it with 3 things that you're really grateful for. And man, when you really start to do that, like you try to find new things. Like, what am I grateful for this morning? And like, it has to be a little piddly shit, like this cup of coffee, this person that's in my life, or the fact that I get to wake up in the morning and train, the fact that I'm healthy enough to train. I mean, man, like
you're starting to live in the moment rather than living for one thing that's big.
Yeah, like exactly. Because if you're chasing, if you feel like you always have to chase some goal or something, you got to chase something, then you can't just stop back and be like, look, man, I'm just having a good time in the here and now. And I think that's one thing that, like, going back to like what really makes it possible for people to train for this stuff in the long term is you got to be able just to train just because you want to train.
Right. You
can't be because I'm trying to chase something. You'd be like, I just like training. I like being around a bunch of sweaty men and women friggin' like just rubbing all over each other, right? Like, and trying to choke each other up. Sounds sexy, doesn't it? Yeah.
It's really sexy. Come to Jiu-Jitsu in Jersey City.
We're going to get sweaty and rub on each other. I can't wait for the no-gi.
It's so, man.
No shirt.
There's nothing like
pants.
A great, great training session, really.
That's right.
I mean, just to, like, really clear, like, for me, just doing the working, I mean, I feel like I'm envious of you guys because I do what I love on a regular basis, but, like, I'm so, I think about jiu-jitsu all the time, and, like, I think about how it can help people in a different way, being as a physical therapist, I try to help people, like, I have a unique thing, and Chewy's really been helping me kind of, like, hone that and kind of guide that into a way that I can, maybe be more effective.
Oh, yeah. I watched some of your videos, dude. They're great.
Thank you. Appreciate it, man. I mean, I don't know, man.
This stretch here, this one,
yeah.
that one, I'm knocked.
Chewy's doing a levator stretch.
Dude. Yeah. So, no kidding. So, some of the stuff I've been doing, my shoulders been stretching out my, or rolling my lats, stretching my pec. And then on the shoulder problem I had, and I started doing the levator stretch. Man, it's like instant relief. Swear to God. Like, I was like literally, I get this, like, oh my God, it feels kind of achy. Boom, do it. Feel better.
I remember when I ripped the muscle in my back, you were kind of just telling me stuff to help it. And you're telling me not to be a dumbass and train. And, I took it into effect, and I was like, all right, I need to listen to Eugene. As soon as I did, sure enough,
that's awesome. That means a lot to me, man. That means a ton. Like, if I can help some people, like we had a guy in the gym today that, like, we think he's got a meniscus injury, and I feel terrible. Like, I couldn't give him some, because you're not going to help everybody. I felt terrible. I couldn't give him some kind of relief, but, like, it's just, man, I don't know.
It was better than it was better after you messed with him.
Yeah, he was walking.
Because he couldn't walk at first.
Yeah, so you helped him out a little bit.
I love, like, one of the most, for me, not being able to train is so mentally daunting, and so, it fucks with your head so bad, because it's something I feel like it's part of us now. When you do it long enough, it's part of your normal routine. And, like, not being able to train is just, like, you're missing something, and you're just not getting that part of your day or part of your life that is so important to you.
And dude, so going with that, going back to like just training to train.
I just train, baby.
And going back to that, man, think about it this way: every day that you train is one less day that you have left to train. Period.
Wow, that's true. I think
it's a sad thing, but when you think about it, like man, people get so like fucking pissy about whatever bullshit they have. It's like, dude, do you realize that like right now in the moment you're training with these people, and they might be people that you literally love, like you care about those people so much, and this is the only time that this will happen, and this is one less moment that you have in your life that you'll be able to share with those people. And it's it's one less training session you have, because you only have if you could look in a crystal ball And this little thing can give you a ticker, like a little number. Like, this is how many training sessions you have left.
That's so
and literally,
crazy.
you just mark them down. Because at the end of the day, mate, I tell you this whole time, your body's a finite resource. Once it's done, it's done. That's it. It's all it's got. That it's done. And all of us we're on a ticking clock to the point where we can't roll full speed anymore. We'll be old little fuckers and they're just moving around, but we can't roll like we used to. We'll be a bunch of old guys with memories talking about all this stuff that we used to do, and all these young guys are going to look at us and be like, fuck you, old man. Like, you know what I mean? And so you got to remember sometimes, like, man, like, just, like, going back to all this, man, just enjoy it, dude. Like, be thankful that you have it, because it ain't going to be there forever, man.
I don't know, like, for me, man, it doesn't, like, I think motivate you to live your dreams and do what you want to do with your life. Like, I mean, you're just wasting it. Like, I love what I do, and I want to incorporate what I do into, like, another one of my passions, which is Jiu-Jitsu, which I never thought would be one of my passions. I thought it was something I was going to do because I was intrigued by it. I don't know if I ever thought I'd be at a brown belt level, whatever. I never thought I'd be doing Jiu-Jitsu with, you know, a family and a kid, and it's hard, but, like, you make it work. You know, you can make anything work that you're passionate about.
That's right.
I think, and that's why I'm so happy for you, Chad, that you finally made that decision where you still have so much ahead of you, and you can still improve so much. And, like, to get to a level in jiu-jitsu, to be so good at jiu-jitsu, you have to, like, dedicate pretty much everything. And it's hard to do when you've already got, like, a life and a lot of different shit, you know, to worry about and bills and stuff. But if you got, you know, I mean, what do you need, really? A couple gis, a couple, you know, rash guards, man, and enough to get some food, enough to kind of somewhere take a dump, you know.
Dude,
Not even always. You can go outside and do that if you want.
I mean,
As Chewy will tell you.
To me, it's more important that I'm helping others grow. And good story is, and this recently happened, a month ago, a girl came to the gym and she didn't really talk to anybody. It was kind of just, like, super shy and anxious, and she said that she was kind of getting picked on at school and all kinds of other stuff, and kind of had the same story as me, and it kind of struck my heart a little bit.
Is this Caroline?
Yeah. And we started doing private lessons and stuff, and we worked together for a month, and then she's only been doing it a month now, and she's starting to walk with, like, great posture again.
Yeah,
she's more confident, and her mom was telling me that she's making friends at school now, and
that's awesome.
all
And
kinds
she's
of stuff.
getting good.
Yeah, and she's really good.
So, like, I think that's something that, like, doesn't have, like, a monetary value. That's something, like, that you're getting, that's something you get from jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. So,
not necessarily just getting good and getting better and submitting people. It's something you're getting as far as, like, emotionally.
Yeah.
You're getting some kind of, like, feedback. You're getting some kind of, I think there's something there. Like, you know, something, like, that you get emotionally out of helping someone, like you said. And I think that's what shows passion. Like, if I'm, like, as a physical therapist, if I help somebody get better, or have somebody, like, allow them to get their job back, like, you know, return to their job or return to their daily activities with less pain. It's just more rewarding. That's the rewarding part. And that's what keeps you coming back, I think.
At the end of my life, you know, I just want people to look back at me and be like, man, this guy helped me a lot. You know, not that I was, like, the best competitor in the world. I want them to have a personal connection. Like, this dude helped me out more than anything. You know, they can tell that story to their kids. Be like, you know, I'll tell it to my kids. Be like, Chewy helped me through this. And Chewy, me and him used to do all this stuff. And that's the way I wanted to come to, you know, when it comes to be my time.
It's kind of like your what you want to leave behind.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, we went to Charlotte Open. I say this all the time. I joke around with Chewy about it because he does all these videos and stuff, and, like, you know, he's kind of we had, like, one of the Meow brothers sitting next to us. We're, like, waiting for, you know, our matches and to get called in Charlotte Open, and one of the Meow brothers just sitting, who's one of the best competitors in the world, you know, multiple time. You know, I think he's probably world champion. He just competes all the time. It's all he does. And Chewy's sitting there, and people are, like, approaching him and, like, wanting to take pictures with him or, like, telling him thank you. And, like, I think it's not necessarily, like, you're relating to people. And I think they get something out of it because I think you're relating to people at every level.
like you're helping somebody out at every level with your videos or your like the things you say. And I like, for me even, you know, like I know you as a, you know, on a personal level, and I still see videos and I'll have to watch them. And I'll watch them. I'm like, man, that's such a great point. Like that, honestly, like just shit that you have questions about, like jiu-jitsu or whatever. Like you answer the questions that people have that sometimes they're scared to ask because it puts them like in the spotlight. And you're like, look, there's a question I got, or this is something that people. It's kind of like, you know.
It's one of the biggest things that I learned in my life is I was so scared to ask people for help because I thought that they would look at me different.
Right.
But, you know, eventually I just learned and I was like, whatever, I need help with this, you know. And I would ask people at the gym, and sure enough, that problem would be fixed most of the time that day. And I was like, awesome.
I think people give you a more. I think when you train the way that we train and stuff, and you see your body every day, good days, bad days, you know, holidays, whatever, like you get more honest. Like people read through the bullshit and they know like who you are.
Yeah.
And like Chad, for me, like I think I've seen a progression for you as like you did used to like, I mean, just like beat the shit out of people, like just really impose your will.
Yeah.
And like now it's like I see a different side of you, and it's like I think you're so much more effective. I think it's having a good mentor too, and I think it's growing up and getting more mature.
Yeah.
Like I think you're just figuring out like this is how to reach people, and you find your best path. I think that's awesome. I mean, I think it comes with time for sure. You got
time and great mentors. I had Chewy growing up, and I had people like you, Justin, Kyle, Colin, my first instructors, and just all kinds of people that helped bring me up. You know, I could have, like I said, I could have been that thug who's robbing a store right now, but here I am.
I don't think from our end, like from my end, like as far as like jiu-jitsu wise, that I feel like I was able to, I don't know, give you a whole lot, but like I think more than anything, like I was able to maybe like through my life experiences give you a little bit of kind of what I've seen. I don't know, because I think jiu-jitsu is not just about.
But I think that also, regardless of how like jiu-jitsu wise, jiu-jitsu doesn't make the character of the person. You could be a shithead and be a good jiu-jitsu, but the fact that, you know, because it was like this for me when I was 18 years old. Like you know, when you make a little adjustment and you influence someone, it's not an instant change. It's typically like if you're on a boat and this boat's going down the stream, right? You just nudge it a little bit. And it starts to veer off. And it doesn't make an immediate change, but like 10 years down the road, it's a big change. Yeah. It's like, whoa, shit, that's huge. And I know that for me, like when I was involved in jiu-jitsu, there were so many good dudes that I was surrounded by. Like I remember there was one day I was reading an investment book, and because I was injured and I was waiting for the class to start, so I'm reading this investment book. And this guy comes in, his name is Al. And Al sits down and he tells me, "Oh no, man! Like you know, like I'll show you some stuff." And this guy took me out, showed me his rental properties, his businesses that he owned, and was showing me how some shit works. I was like, "Oh, really cool." And like I remember, like when I bought a house, when I've written up business deals before, I've always gone back to this dude. You know what I mean? He's literally been a huge influence and a mentor for me because he was just willing to help me out. Sure. You know, and so there's like people like that where you know, even though I could beat Al. God, there was so much I learned from him. And just like, you know, Chad, sure, he can maybe beat you in jiu-jitsu, but like, man, he can look at you and be like, oh, you're a good dude and you got your life together. You're a good man, right? Like you're a good dude. And like, that's something that, you know, we can all learn from, you know, even for me, it's like, you know, I admire all you guys that are good fathers and stuff like that. Cause I had a shithead of a dad. So to me, man, like I look at you guys that are good dads that are balancing life and training and all this crazy stuff and you're still getting it done. So,
one of the parents posted this picture today, and I just thought that.
Which one?
I thought it was pretty cool, just like looking at everybody, how they.
Oh, that's cool.
How you make an impact on people, and you know the little things that you say. You may not think about it, but there's some people who came up to me and like, "Man, you told me this like 6 months ago, and I've held on to that, and it's helped me through so much." And I was like, I didn't even notice it. You know, I was just speaking my mind, and it just struck somebody's nerve, and they're like, "Man, that's like." That was for me. It's like I felt like you're talking to me personally, so I try to watch what I say because I know that.
Right, well, you influence people. Like I think, like Chewy, you may have not had that great father figure or whatever, but you are
in a lot of aspects, these kids now, like running the kids class, like you are that to them because some of them don't have that, you know, that great.
Well, and I sought out unconsciously, like father figures, like like Al. There was another guy that owned a gym years ago. I used to talk to him. He was a really interesting guy. He was like 72 years old. He could do a 255-pound behind the neck press. He could bench press 325, like incline. Like, I mean, dude, the guy was insane. But I remember asking him because he ran a gym and he was so fucking happy. Like, you know, usually, you know, you met people like back in like the generation before us, like the older generations, and they typically, by the time they got to adulthood, they were just like robbed of life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They were just like, they were done. Like, they weren't really alive anymore. They didn't have that spark in them. And he always did. Like, he was hilarious, dude. I mean, some of the shit, I wouldn't even want to talk about some of the shit that he would do because he was fuck around, you know? But he was so happy, and I remember asking, like, why? Like, what's happening? He told me about, man, I used to do this thing where I had this job, and I fucking hated it. I got rid of it. He's like, and so, you know what? I really enjoy lifting weights, and I bought a gym.
That's awesome.
And he's like, that's what I fucking do. You know what I mean? Like, he sits around the gym, hangs out, and bullshits with people, and he was a really, you know, jovial dude. He didn't have a lot of stuff. He had a couple things that he had, like, you know, but he didn't have anything crazy, extravagant, but he was happy. And I was like, oh, cool. You know, you seem like you got your shit together. You know what I mean? Like, instead of being like some person that's miserable and hates their life and just like goes through it and then dies.
But you can't buy happiness. Like, really, I mean, you can't really, like, as far as jiu-jitsu goes, you can't buy being good at jiu-jitsu. You can work for it.
You work for it.
You can't buy it. You know, like, you know, that's what makes it kind of pure. That's what makes it worthwhile, I think.
It's the truth.
Because, yeah, and then you can't just get there. Some people get it faster than others, but you have to put the work in.
Well, right. Like, for instance, like you were talking about, like, there's such a diversity of people in the gym, right? And we have guys in the gym that literally have more money, like, more money than I'll ever know about, right? Like, I mean, it's just how it is. They're from their socioeconomic levels just on something that I probably will never see. Because it's just not something I desire, but they're good people, though. But that said, those same dudes fall under guys that can beat them who are like fucking like burger flippers and like students, you know what I mean? Like kids, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like, it's the truth. It doesn't matter who you are, what God you pray to, what skin color you are, you know, how much money you make. None of that bullshit matters. All that matters is how do you roll. Yeah. You know, that's it.
It's humbling.
It is. It's humbling, and it's so cool because it's one of those like, it's just an equalizer. It doesn't matter. You can be whoever you are, and awesome. You can be good at this stuff. Right. Instead of being like everything else in life where it's like, well, how much money do you got? Who do you know? That shit doesn't really matter.
I think the funny thing about jiu-jitsu is like, yeah, you got guys that are not very athletic too, but like a lot of it's mental fortitude, you know, not necessarily like, because physically a lot of guys are, you know, they can mirror physically, they're very imposing, but like mentally they never have to really struggle.
They never had to dig.
Yeah, they never had to struggle for it. And so like some of these guys like that came in, they were really muscular, out of shape even. Like some guys are really overweight, out of shape.
Or the guys that never were really anything to begin with.
Yeah.
They just
skinny, old, scrawny kids, and they come in and they're like, Chad.
Yeah.
That was you. That was me, man. Like I was never confrontational and stuff. I was scared of confrontation. Scared of getting in a fight. I'm still scared of getting in a fight.
That's because you're a little weakling.
Thanks, Chewy.
No problem.
But, man, like, you know, just because you do jiu-jitsu doesn't mean you're going to look for, some people will look for altercations. But
I think most people don't, like, look for altercations.
You look for ways to avoid
you're exhausted. You're like, I just got done fucking, like, getting choked out by this, like, 17-year-old, like, world champion. I don't want to fight someone. I just want to, like, go to sleep. I want to go, like, have a beer and relax. I'm tired. That's, you know, and honestly, that's why guys like to fight anyway, because it's like they don't get that. Like, there's no outlet anymore, man.
Right.
Like where are they going to take that? Like, again, that's energy, man. And like, you can try to like act like people aren't supposed to fight, but fighting is human. Like, you know, like the Greeks would say to make war is to be human.
It's natural,
right? To fight is natural. So you need some outlet for this, and it's a perfectly healthy outlet for it.
I only wanted to fight because I thought everyone else wanted me to fight. Because as I was growing up, they were always talking like, "Oh, you're gonna be a great MMA fighter." You know, I mean, I liked MMA and stuff, but I was like, oh, fuck it. I guess I'm going to do MMA.
I'll tell you,
that's
man.
how I got into my first fight.
Like, watching fights, like, a lot of people watch fights, and, like, they love those ones where those guys go back to, like, just throwing hands, just knocking each other around. And I've gotten to the point where I'll watch those fights, and I'm like, oh, my God, this guy may never be the same after this fight, you know? They may never be the same person. They may never be physically the same, or I don't know. It kind of, for me, I've kind of gotten to that point where, like, I love watching it, but, like, sometimes it's hard for me to watch just because I can see the damage it can do to someone, like, physically, you know. Being a PT, like, just watching how people's bodies break down and stuff, it's just hard for me to see, like, somebody's body just kind of break down and waste away. It's tough, man.
It is.
And it's hard to see people get injured, and for me, like, if I want to help everybody, you know, but I know that.
Well, and that's what, man, like, I had that rude awakening a couple of years ago where you realize, like, because when I was turning 30, roughly, like, you start to realize, like, whoa, like this ride, man, it's not forever.
Yeah, it's finite, man.
It is, dude, and it's like, it's a beautiful thing because you have to cherish it. But it's a sad thing because it doesn't stay forever. You know, your health is not a, you know, permanent, like, it's not a permanent guarantee. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, it's not always going to be there. So it's like, man, like, when you start to think about that, man, like, you look around, you're like, man, I'm just happy I'm fucking here right now. I'm happy that these people are around me, and I'm happy that I have this cool thing that I can share, and just happy instead of worried about, like, man, I feel like I was off today. Who the fuck cares about being off? There's tomorrow. Like,
exactly.
we're still good enough. It's like, at least we can still do this stuff.
Right.
Because someday you're going to be old and fucking just frail, and you're going to be like, man, I wish I could go back to one of my off days. Like, you know, I wish I could go to one of my off days when I was 31 years old, when I was 20, because it's not always going to be there.
Yeah, I used to think that if someone would tap me out, that they would look at me different. So that's one of the main reasons. But now I've learned that, you know, sometimes people will catch me, and it's just part of it. And Eugene's caught me plenty of times with jokes, and, you know, he's never...
I don't remember.
He's never talked shit to me or anything. So I mean, we'll give each other some shit, but it's never...
Oh, man.
Never
I love rolling you
because
because you always push me. I'm not... Like, I think, like, I don't avoid a tough roll. Like, especially not from you, just because I just know I'll be better for it.
That's right.
You know, I know that. Yeah, like you said, you're not gonna look at me any different. I'm not gonna look at you any different.
Yeah.
If I get you in something, I know, like, I'll have bad days too, and I'll, like,
we're all in it
or a
together.
lower belt will be like, you know, they'll do whatever, but that doesn't matter, and that shit happens.
You know, that was one of my main things about. This is why a lot of black belts don't compete at tournaments. Is because they think that their students will look at them different if they lose. But, I mean, really it just shows that we're all human, and the reason that they like you is because you're a good person.
Right.
I mean, you're showing them good techniques and stuff. But
Well, see, and that's what it comes back to. It's reciprocity, man. It's I give to you, you give to me. And, you know, the coach, like I said, well, first off, they'll be happy that you competed because, like, my coach is out there doing the damn thing, right?
Yeah.
But people respect you not for what you do, but for what you can give to them. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, that's a very simple thing. Like, I mean, you could have a world champion coach winning championships after championships, but if you never see them, if they're not nice to you, if they're not helping you out, then you're not going to care. You're not going to stay with them. You know, likewise, you could have a coach that does okay, you know, tournaments, but then it's like but they're giving you everything they got. You're like, wow, I like this guy. Like, he's really giving me, like, the full thing. I mean, shit, dude, I was a brown belt. There were black belts in the city, and I was a brown belt, and people started coming from all over the city to get here. And it's like, it wasn't because I had a black belt or because I was doing something. It was because, like, man, like, they felt like they got a good experience and they were happy to be here. You know, just how it is.
So, like, I wanted to kind of end on this. Like, where do you see, since we're kind of nearing the end of the year, what do y'all see in the next year? Like, what are some goals? Like, Chewy or Chad, whoever. Since Chad, I'll start with you. Since you're a black belt now, which really doesn't mean too much. We already know you're a badass. But what's your goal for next year? Just like, what do you want to accomplish? What are some things you'd like to kind of get done?
You know, I've talked to our team, and I've told them that I want everyone to at least try to do a tournament together in March. So I think that's what I'm kind of geared towards right now.
What's the March?
I don't know. I just told them around the March area, like
It's a lot.
yeah, everybody's pumped. They're like, "Fuck yeah, March!" I had so many people, like at least 20 people, come up to me and was like, "I'm getting ready for this." It's like I want to do that.
Let's get them for the Atlanta.
Yeah,
February.
When is it, February?
we could do that.
I'm down.
But yeah,
Maybe.
they're just
I'll
wanting
talk to the wife. Sorry, I'll talk to the wife.
towards it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people they're just inspired and they want to do it. So
It's awesome, man.
That's one of the big things for me next year is what I'm looking forward to. I mean, obviously I'm trying to get my YouTube channel started and everything else, but you know, that particular thing means a lot more to me than any of the other stuff.
What about competing? What do you want to like?
Competing
what do you want to
wise?
see yourself do? Competition.
You know, I'm just looking forward to getting back out there. It doesn't really matter what it is. I'm going to try to set up some super fights and different things next year. Yeah. Who knows? I mean, I plan on competing a lot more than I have been because now that I have the time to put into the training, I want to start putting it to use. And I want to start getting out there frontlining for my team. And they see that I'm out there doing the thing, then they're going to want to do it too.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
the way I look at it.
So there's a February 4th is the Atlanta tournament. That's gi, and then
That's gi only.
Gi only, and then there's the Chicago tournament April 1st and 2nd. Gi and no gi.
Nice.
So we can do Chicago possibly.
Ooh, I like that.
I didn't have a good run for last Chicago.
Chewy, what's the goal for you, man? What do you want to do? I mean, you've had some really good success, Pan Ams. Pretty good run. I feel like you did a pretty good run at the Master World. You said you want to do something with that again.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna do the Master Worlds again. That was a fun tournament. I'm gonna compete, man. I'm gonna let it happen. A lot of times for me, man, I'm just kind of a freak as far as working out. I just like being in shape.
Sure.
So I'm always ready to go. Like I never get out of shape. So I'll just pick it up a little bit for big tournaments, but I'll pick some stuff to do from time to time. Do some tournaments. I want to get some big groups together again. Those were fun to get some groups together to compete. I've got some fun stuff planned, man. Like I said, I don't really want to talk about it too much just because a lot of times for me, if I talk about it too much, I don't end up doing it.
All right.
Like I end up like letting it pass me by because it's like there's a thing they talk about where people, if they talk, like some people, if they talk about it, they feel tethered to the person's like with their thoughts, and so they feel like responsibility to follow through. But there's also people where they say what they want to do, and then they kind of get the sensation of like, oh, I did it. Like their body kind of like tricks them, like, oh, I'm good, and they never do it. And for me, I'm that guy. Like if I talk about it too much, I won't follow through. So I'll just let it be a surprise.
All right, right on. Chad, where can people find you if they want to look at your YouTube channel? How can they find you?
Just type in Chad the Beast Hardy on Instagram or Facebook, and should be the first one that pops up. I think I'm the only one.
Chew. Everybody knows about you're a celebrity. Jiu-Jitsu.net. What else?
Just Jiu-Jitsu, man. Jiu-Jitsu.net. You can put Jiu-Jitsu in any of the social medias, and you'll find me. Again, if you have any questions, always shoot them over to me. I like having around and like doing them. So
awesome. And you can find me at jiu-jitsutherapist.com and also YouTube, Jiu-Jitsu Therapist. And thank you guys, man. Y'all are awesome. Y'all what makes the gym freaking amazing, and what makes us train hard. And I'm proud of you all for just setting such an amazing example and pushing us and giving us something to strive for. So I love it. It's the best gym in the world, man. Thank you guys.
love you, buddy.
Love you, Chew. Love you.
Thanks again to Nick, Chewy, Albin, Chad the Beast Hardy, and everybody, all you guys. I appreciate you all listening so much. Thank you for the support. Check me out at jiu-jitsutherapist.com for more information, injury prevention, Jiu-Jitsu PT on Twitter, and the Jiu-Jitsu Therapist on Instagram. Thank you guys so much for all the support, and we'll be back next time. Thank you.